Hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by an icon from the world of acting, the fantastic Sally-Anne Upton. How are you, Sally-Anne?
I'm very good. We're cold here in Melbourne. I wish I was in England. You're having a beautiful summer, I believe.
Well, yeah, we had last week we had beautiful weather. This week it's kind of dipped a bit, but I'm hopeful that next week it'll pick up again. But yeah, I mean, in Australia, do you guys get, because obviously, typically people imagine sun, heat. But actually, in Melbourne, it can get quite cold, I believe.
It's freezing at the moment. It was below zero this morning, so it was bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
Now
But
we were
yes,
we were just talking off air because I genuinely didn't know this, but you're actually originally from the UK. So I
oh
mean, sort of,
yes, my
t t
motherland.
tell us sort of, what part of the UK were you from, and when did you travel to Australia?
I was born in I was born in Yorkshire, in Gisborne, and I grew up in Redcar. So, and then we came out as part of the £10 tourist scheme in the 60s when everybody escaped because they could. And they we came out to Australia, and it was purely my parents did it because my dad was very unwell all the time with colds and different things because he was in the war, and he got mustard gas poisoning in the lungs and everything like that. So it was to really come out to a better climate and hopefully a better life and all of that. So they were very brave to do it in their late 30s with kids. I tip my hat to my parents. I can't believe it that they would do that. And it's before social media, before you just have to go in a phone box or send a telegram that you would arrive safely. That's what we were talking. So, yes.
And I mean, do you get to come back to the UK much? Have you been over, to visit much since, in the last sort of couple of years or so?
Oh, absolutely. I first went back in when I was 29, and then I went back in 2008, 2009. And then, of course, after Wentworth, I went back in 16, 17, and 18 for meet and greets over there. So, yeah. So I get back now on that you can Zoom people and that you keep in contact with all your aunts and uncles and everybody over there. So, yes.
I mean, being part of not just one, but two shows that have really hit the ground over here in the UK, that must be quite nice to kind of, reconnect and kind of have that fan base over here, as well as obviously in Australia.
I love, I love, I love my fans all around the world, like, especially with Wentworth. Wentworth, like, the people in Canada absolutely love. Well, everybody loves Wentworth, but there was something about Juicy Lucy for the Canadians, for the Americans. Australians loved her. A lot of Japanese. Like I get a lot of fan things from Japan, and that's what's so wonderful as an actor is that you do these things and then they just have a, a life of their own. We never imagined that a show would be so successful, and rightly so. And how wonderful that it's predominantly women doing it too, which is a good balance. It's a nice balance to have.
Now
Yeah.
we will talk a bit more about Wentworth in just a moment, but for you, where did the love of acting first come from? Because, you've had quite an amazing career. You've done so much. So how did acting come about for you?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you were to ask my dad, he would have said she was born that, like, my parents say I made them laugh from the minute I arrived. So, and I was a bugger, as my dad would say. She's a bugger, but God, she makes us laugh. And I started the stage for me was dancing because my sister was into ballet and was quite good at it. And she's 5 years older than me. So I would look at her going out in a tutu, and then she'd come back with a trophy. And I wanted some of that. I like the tutu, but I really like the bling at the end. I thought that was terrific. So I wanted to do my ballet, which I did. And I remember my first at Stedford, my piano player I was only 5, and my piano player did not turn up, and they were trying to get me off the stage, and I refused because I knew if I did my dance, I would go home with a piece of bling in my 5-year-old mind. And of course, they had to bring down the curtain. Mum had to come on, pick me up. I was kicking and screaming the house down, and they gave me a little medal to shut me up. But the first time I ever got that low of this is my calling was when I was on the ship coming out to Australia, and we were having a concert on the ship, and I was 6. And we got they wanted somebody to sing Michael Rowe the Boat Ashore. So I don't know how I got the gig, but I got the gig. I was on the stool. All the other kids were in a V rowing, and the light came up on me, and I just saw the light, the spotlight, and everything else was dark. And there was something about that glow. I remember it so clearly. I'm talking about it now, but that's where the footlights, the oil paint, I was hooked, and I just kept singing. And they had to keep rowing. My sister reckons she rowed half the way to Australia. Um, and the only way they could shut me up was by bringing the spotlight down. So I think that's where I got it. And then I did amateur theatre, and even with my nursing training, we were always doing concerts for the hospital. And the last one, I wrote the whole show of it. So I was always in that feel.
I mean,
And my dad wanted to call when they were waiting for me to arrive before the days of gender reveal, hoping because I've got a daughter, it's going to be a son. I'm going to be called George. Well, of course, when I arrived and I'm a girl, oh, is she Georgina? My dad named me after Sally-Anne House, who used to be a big Hollywood. Well, no, she was an English star. She was an actress. And I think it's ironic he named me Sally-Anne after an actress, and I became an actress.
I mean, we must also touch upon, you just mentioned it there, you've done nursing as well. Um, you're also a celebrant as well. You kind of have done it all. I mean, you must I imagine you're a lover of people, and for being a celebrant, you're obviously marrying people, nursing, you're caring for people. So I imagine you're very much a people person.
Yeah, anything to help a person out. I don't know where that comes from, but that's always been in me. Mum reminded me just before she passed, which is going to be a year this month. I can't believe that. But she reminded me of a time when I was very young where I used to always say, I would always look after you. But it was at an age where you don't normally say that stuff. It's just something in me, and I think that's a good thing. I don't mind that, and I do like people, and I do, and they do all marry together. And being an actor, there's only 3% of actors worldwide that are in that $1 million bracket movie. The rest of us have to be working actors. So to be able to be a nurse, and then I jump back of camera to look after my crew, that was hard to do as an actor. But I'm so grateful that I have, because I've met so many people in the process. And now that I'm in front of the camera, I am so well looked after, because the crew know that I looked after them, so it's reciprocated. So I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Now we must say, talk a bit about Wentworth, and such a great show. You joined in season 3 of the show. What was it that enticed you to the role of, I mean, Lucy, or Juice, the nickname? What was it that enticed you to play that role?
Well, it's funny. I was on Mary Poppins at the time when we heard that they were going to try to do a remake of Prisoner, make it modern and everything. And I just, because I watched Prisoner as a kid, a lot of my friends older than me, but like Anne Phelan, Betty Bobbitt, all that were in that, I knew them all. So they were really great friends of mine. So when it came along, I was going, oh my God, I want to get a Guernsey in this show, like every person in Australia. But of course, I'm contracted to a musical. And it was, 2.5 year contract, which is very unusual for an actor. And so when I was coming out of that, so all of those preliminary characters, well, you couldn't go for them because you can't do it. So then there was talk about the freak. So there was a few people pitching me for the freak, and I thought, oh yeah, I could do a freak. But then Judith, not Judith, Lucy, she's my mate, Juicy Lucy Gambaro came along, and I read it and went, wow, and thought to myself, boy, this is a great character. But it wasn't based on any character that we'd seen in Prisoner. So it's kind of like you're creating this character. And I remember going for the scene, and it was the scene where I get Lizzie's daughter held up in the shower, the shower. Yes, you never want to go to a shower when you're in a woman's prison. No. And so it was that scene. And I remember the girl reading opposite. She's just another actor that's not in the show, that's just doing the dry read. And I said, look, and I said to the director, Kevin, do you want me to go full throttle? And he said, yes. And I said to her, are you okay with that? She said, yes. So I thought, well, okay, crank it up to fifth gear, go for it. And then at the end, there was silence in the little room, and he went, cut. And he went, whoa. And the girl was up against the wall, and she went, oh. And I said, are you all right? And they went, yeah. And I went, okay, do you need me to do it again? He goes, no, I think we got it. I think we got it. And then literally 5 days later, you're going to the set. It's bonkers how it's all goes now. And it was only supposed to be 5 eps in season 3 that I was contracted for, and originally. And then, of course, they asked me to stay on, and I got 4 seasons. So I'm very grateful.
I mean,
Very
it's
grateful.
such a great show, but also the character was so good. I mean, for you, you must enjoy that real nasty side and the violence, and that it must be such a great, fun show to be a part of.
Well, it is because, like some people say to me, I've got a friend in the biz that hates doing evil stuff or anything like that. So like just wants to vomit if she has to do anything like that. Where I think those characters are much more real and everything. And also, I sort of got juice because I not only, yeah, nursing, I worked at Long Bay Jail because part of Prince Henry's Hospital was anybody coming to theatres, and I was the escort nurse to and from theatres. We had a jail prison quarters. So I used to work in that a lot. So I understand that prison mentality, and she was a timer. So I got her gist on that. And it sort of evolves as you go and do it. It's really interesting as an actor.
And
And
like,
coming off Mary Poppins, it was so different. It was fabulous.
I mean, obviously, one of the things that you still to this day don't get a great deal of it is female-led shows that are, not just, the female playing the mother or something like that. So it must be so good to get your teeth into something where real female talent is being displayed and being shown off to the world.
Absolutely. And that's what everybody's embracing. That's why it's gone wild. 80, well, it was 80 something countries and redone in 4 or 5 where they actually do our characters the way we do it. It's, begs your mind just goes, I can't believe it. But I feel very grateful of that and all the different points. And it's only when you start looking back on your career, you go, God, like seriously, if I died tomorrow, touch wood, because I've had too much death around me, I don't want that to happen, touch wood. But it's okay. It's okay. And also being back on Neighbours now and them writing a bit more of Vera in. And that's also, being out there in COVID and trying to keep that production up and running. We owe a great deal to Natalie Lynch and Chris Donis, um, who really set about to get that protocol ready, and that's what launched everybody in the world. In New York, we opened up floodgates, and I couldn't have done that gig. They asked me to be the nurse on the front line because they went down to just a minimal cast of the main. Um, and anybody that was compromised couldn't come to work. And so I just dealt with it like it was barrier nursing, and they had to come past Nurse Ratshit every day. Whether you were the executive producer, they had to come past Nurse Sal. But it was a camaraderie, and I would hate to do that. I would never want to do a job like that again. It was so intense. But I feel very honoured that I'm very proud of what we did. And out of that, they are writing more of Vera now, and I'm just absolutely adoring it.
Now,
You
obviously,
know,
yeah, we must talk about Neighbours, and it's actually, now quote me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, but filmed in the same building, I believe, as Wentworth. Is that correct?
no, it's totally wrong. Um, it's built. Neighbours is now shot at Nunawading and has been done for years. Now, Nunawading Studios is an institution within itself. I first went out there um, in 1990. Well, it was 89, 90 when I started out there on Bingles, but that's where all the Crawford productions came out of. Bert Newton's show came out of there, a lot of, but now it's the home of Neighbours. They did have offices there. So, yes, the production company of Fremantle that did Wentworth definitely did come out of there. But the shooting of Wentworth was out at Carlton in Melbourne for the first the first three, and that's why there had to be a fire because that building was sold. And then we had the hiatus of a year, and then we filmed it over in Newport. So they were the two locations of filming. But yes, the production office definitely did come out of Fremantle, Nunawading. Yeah.
Now, obviously, for you, Neighbours, you joined the show back in 2019. I mean, that time has flown by, but I mean, for you, how did that first come about? How did Neighbours first become, you know, part of your life? And also, did you realize how popular the show was in the UK?
Oh yeah, yeah. I knew how popular it was. Of course you did. Anybody that was on Neighbours could do any panto. Now, if you're an influencer, you can do panto. You don't get a look in if you're on the thing. So yes, you knew the enormity of what it was. Definitely, definitely, without question. But it's I for me, I first went out there before that because there was one of the actors, Imogen, that was out there and she broke a leg, and they needed somebody to go out and help her medically because she's got the thing. And I was doing the odd nursing thing, so they rang me up and said, "Would you come?" And also because I'm an actor, I could help her with the lines, and she was gorgeous. And then I helped them out, and I was medical advisor there for years and years and years. And then I did a bit of unit nursing here and there, and that's how that came about there. So, and Jan Russ, I mean, say, we owe a lot to Jan Russ, my God. She starred, casting many of career out of there now. And now we got Thea McLeod, who does a wonderful job. And, it's a good team out there. It's really, and especially now. Now we've had the break, we've come back. I think it's shot better. And for a soap, the writing is really good and it moves along now. And I think, I don't know how it's coming across to the average punter, but I actually think it's doing well. Well, it got nominated for 2 Emmys, so we're doing something right.
I mean, the show, from my point of view, anyway, is doing fantastically. I mean, obviously here in the UK, it's been nominated for a National Television Award as well, which is, so great. I mean, a show which, for a while, I think. I mean, I've loved the show for donkey's years, but I think a lot of people will say that maybe the show kind of got a bit neglected towards the end, not the last year necessarily, but before that got a little bit neglected. But I think it's back where it deserves to be, right?
Oh,
Top of the shelf.
yeah, it's punchy. Like I'm watching it every day because I want to keep up to the storyline because when you're a guestie, you don't get all the scripts. If you're not in it, you don't get the scripts. So you've got to keep up with the storyline. And I love watching everybody's work and the progression. And you can never get enough of Jackie Woodburn. I just love her acting, and Alan and Steph and everybody. But yeah, it's really good to watch it. And I go off my partner now. They will say nah, or but they're enjoying it as well, so it's good.
I mean,
Yeah,
Vera is such a great character, and I mean, obviously she's kind of, sort of, moved with the times and changed a lot. We when we first met her, she obviously came in after her sister's death, living at number, was it 34? I think she's based in.
34. Yes.
I mean, obviously now we've seen that she's, the new landlord of 32. For you, you must love the way that the character has progressed over the years since joining.
Oh, I'm so joyful. It was funny in the middle of COVID, and we're in a mass lockdown. We've got things coming at us every moment of the day because you're trying to deal with how you deal with situations. And it was towards the end of the year, and they normally have a celebration there for the cast and crew, mainly the crew, and they always give a nod to people who've been there maybe 10 years or something like that in the courtyard, and everybody comes together. Well, we couldn't do that because we're isolated. So we all had to have different courtyards, and this section was in this courtyard, and we're all spread out. And I'll never forget I was just there having a look to see who was going to get the nod. And out of the blue, Jason, oh, bless him, the executive producer, mask, because he took his mask away because he was the distance, and said, first up, we just want to thank Sal for all that she's done on the front line. And I burst into tears because I wasn't expecting that. And she's been telling us everything about you. And I took my mask off and said, not everything, because everybody's coming through telling, we're having a laugh. I don't know how we're ever going to repay you. And some crew member yelled out, write more storylines for Vera. And the whole place went up. And from that, well, it's not just that. They love Vera, but it is that thing of, you with family. I feel like I'm with family when I'm out there. And I know it's twee, and people say that about a production, but it's lovely to say that about a production because you don't say it about every production. And let me tell you, you don't.
I mean,
That'll
obviously,
be the memoir. Like,
I mean, obviously, the fact that, Vera's now sort of more heavily involved in the show, would you like to be more regular, and would you love to be in the opening titles? Because I know the fans would love to see that.
I think if I was in the opening titles, I just want to be the character that pops over the fence. So I think Vera could be in the open titles just popping over the fence because she's there in and out. Look, a couple of years ago, I would have said yes. But now, because of different things happening, I just am so grateful at this age to be working. And this age, that's why whenever sorry, I'm jumping, but whenever I do you do your self tapes now. You've got to do self tapes, and they go, you've got to give your agent's name, your location, your height, and what your character name is, and your age. And I always say I identify as age fluid, and that's how I am staying. But I'm just so grateful to be like that. So at the moment, no, because I'm about to, and I can talk about this section of this, I'm about to jump on to major feature film. And will be working with I'm just blown away that I'll be working with Sally Hawkins and Billy Barrett. That's English. And I'm really looking forward to working with the boys on Bring Her Back. And it's something that you can juggle with Neighbours, and they have that understanding, and they're just as joyous for me that I've got that. So it's lovely at the moment. So I'm happy.
And I
Yes.
mean, we must just talk a bit about Vera and the fact, she is very blunt. People seem to love her, for just speaking her mind. For you, if you were to meet Vera, do you think you'd be friends? Do you think you'd get on?
Uh, I'd get on with Vera, but I'd have to pull her into line. Like, she's shocking. Like, sometimes I do stuff and then when they go cut, I go, oh, she's just despicable. Like, you know, just like taking over the pool. But what gets me is some of the fans are roaring in, going, you wouldn't be able to do that in thing. The law is you can't. And you go, yeah, it's a soap. Yeah, stay. Let's calm the farm. Yes. No, she can't do that. But Vera thinks she can, and that's the comedy. That's the comedy of it.
And I mean, that's the great thing with Vera is just kind of anything she does is just hilarious. She's just such a funny character. And I think part of that comes from the fact that maybe she doesn't necessarily realize quite how blunt she's being and how naughty she's being, let's say.
Well, it's like the other day when Mackenzie tells her she's got to leave, and she turns around and gets quite offended by it. She's very upset. And then she turns around and goes, well, sorry, I'm putting up the rent. Like seriously. You'd you'd want Vera in your trench, because I reckon if she's behind you 100%. But you wouldn't want to share a tent with her. Wouldn't want to go on a camping trip with Vera, I don't think.
I mean, for you, what would you say is your favorite Vera storyline over the years? Because you've got to do quite a lot with her so far. So what would you say is your favorite?
Oh, the favourite so far for me has been the pool scenes that we did there, because it was just so much fun, and even the crew enjoyed it. It was a good day when we all have a good day, and we all did have a good day, and you can see that in the back footage, that they've got on social media at the moment. That was a good one. Um, I also was at the back of camera when Mackenzie was saying goodbye to Ben, and I coaxed them. I coached them through that medically and what would happen and the color of his skin and all that. Although I wasn't in front of the camera as Vera, I remember that being an amazing job to do, because I could help Mackenzie get there and him to die well. You got to die well. You've all got to die well.
And I
I
mean,
love a
we
good.
we must also just briefly say, I mean, now that Vera is the landlord of number 32, what would you love to see her get up to now that she's the landlord?
Well, what would she get up to, or what I know she's gotten up to? I
Let's
can't
go.
tell you what she's gotten up to, but I thinks, you see, the lovely thing about Vera is she's so vulnerable. She's she's all blusto and all of that, but she's got a vulnerability amongst it. So I think that's what you're going to really find interesting, is that watching that actually happen. And for me, it's great because we're having such a great time, because all of a sudden I keep popping in. Don't worry, there'll be a stop to it coming up, but I just think she thinks that she can come over at any drop of the hat. She's now in with the gang. I think that's the way she thinks.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to the patients who are currently stuck in hospital at the moment, or to the amazing medical staff all over the world, really?
Oh, well, my heart goes out to you, because I know what it's like. And I think that, the old saying, nurses, you can't live without them. You actually can't. Or any carer or anybody that is caring for somebody. We've just recently, and when I say recently, 2 weeks ago, lost somebody very quickly to cancer. So it is very hard. And the thing I will say to everybody, well, to all the care workers, we love you and we thank you, and you should be paid a lot more. Politicians should be paid less, and services should be paid more. But we know that, and it needs to happen. But to people who are really out there that have an illness or something that they're dealing with and everything like that, you've just got to remember your mind is your most powerful tool. And I learned that very, very quickly as a nurse. Your mind and your positivity will get you better places. And I know at times when it really feels like that moment is too much for you, that's when you dream, you have fantasies about the future, or if the future isn't there for you, you have fantasies about the past and everything. But when the future is too much to bear for you, that's when you make a cup of tea and you come back to the moment. So you just got to trick your mind all the time, but your mind's the most powerful tool.
And we
So.
must. I just also want to quickly add that people should keep watching Neighbours. It's so good. Obviously, here in the UK, it's on Amazon Freevee. Drops every Monday to Thursday at 7 a.m. And also, you can go back and watch all of Wentworth Prison on My Five. So you know what
Yeah,
if you want your Sally-Anne fix, it's there for you.
yeah, it's there for you if you want it. And you'll
Sally.
see a lot of other good people too.
Now, Sally-Anne, it's been an absolute pleasure. Tthank you so much for giving up your time. Of course, keep safe,
No,
and
and
you are
thank
welcome
you
back
for doing this,
anytime.
Matthew. These podcasts and all that you're doing is really important because people follow them and they get a lot of solace out of it. So good on you, and you've done a really an amazing job with the people that you've had on. And the reason why is because you do it so well, and we watch it and go, "Oh yeah, we want to be on that." So good luck with it for the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That
Thank
means so much.
you. Yeah. I know, I mean it. It's not easy. It's not easy being green.